Good evening. For decades, the twin scourges of unemployment and underemployment have, like a ghost, haunted the Ghanaian workforce, especially the youthful subset within this larger group. Now, the third quarter labor statistics of the 2023 Ghana Annual Household Income and Expenditure Survey reveals that while the share of youth not in employment, education, or training declined in 4 out of the 6 interquartile periods, almost 200,000 persons experienced an unemployment spell of at least 12 months between the first quarter of 2022 and the third quarter of 2023. Additionally, the report shows that 22.3%, that by the way is 1 in every 5 of the persons who experienced an unemployment spell from quarter 1 of 2022 to quarter 3 of 2023, had completed tertiary education. Tonight, we shall unpack these stark figures as we dissect Ghana's unemployment migraine, whether we are being honest about the true state of affairs, and whether we are even tackling it in the best of ways. My name is Benjamin Akakpo, and this is The Probe. After the break, we cut to the marrow of unemployment in Ghana as we host our guests. Kwesi Afriye is Director of Corporate Affairs, Youth Employment Agency. Franklin Kujo is Founding President and CEO, Imani Africa. Michael Kabute Caesar is Chairman, Tema Branch of the Ghana National Chamber of Commerce and Industry. Solomon Vuduga, who joins us in the studio, is a member, Unemployed Trained Teachers Association. And we have Ibrahim Haruna, National President, Graduate Unemployed Nurses and Midwives Association. Do stay with us. Well, thank you very much for staying with us. It's an electoral year, and even in spite of what happens in an electoral year, there's always a focus on unemployment. Usually I say that there's not much talk about underemployment, where skills and what people do not match. But tonight, we're going to be focusing on the latest Ghana 2023 Annual Household Income and Expenditure Survey as we host the guests that I've spoken to you about, as we look at this problem and how to address the issues that confront us. Well, I'm going to start just by checking those on Zoom, those joining us virtually, to ensure that everyone can hear me. Franklin Kujo joins us of Imani Africa. Good morning, Mr. Kujo. Good evening, I beg your pardon. I'm so used to saying good morning that even in the evening, I say good morning. Good evening, Mr. Kujo. Good to have you join the conversation.
Good evening. Good to see you virtually again. Thank you.
All right. Let me also check on, okay, so we'll have Ibrahim Haruna join the conversation shortly. Ibrahim Haruna, I believe, is on already. All right. So Ibrahim will join us shortly. We'll also have Kwesi Afriye join the conversation in a bit. He is Director of Corporate Affairs at the Youth Employment Agency. Recently, they were speaking about 282 people they had roped in, including those persons with disability who were at the toll booths. We'll talk about that as well. But in the studio joining me, Michael Kabute Caesar, Chairman, Tema Branch of the Ghana National Chamber of Commerce and Industry. Thank you so much, sir. And then we also have Solomon Vuduga, Member, Unemployed Trained Teachers Association. Thank you for joining the conversation. So let me start with Mr. Kujo. Let me start virtually. It's always easier to deal with those in the studio, but those virtually, that's where the problem can be. Mr. Kujo, I don't know whether you've taken a good look at the latest Ghana 2023 Annual Household Income and Expenditure Survey up to quarter 3 of 2023 and what it reveals. Yes, some employment has been created, but the unemployment rate remains stark. And even more, when we talk about employment, what kind of employment is it? Is it a transient employment where people come, fill the gap, and then wade back into unemployment? Those are the questions. But when you look at the latest statistics, what do they reveal to you?
Well, it only means that even in seasons when we were supposed to be growing, the jobs have been, you can describe them as jobless growth, really. I'm a bit worried that as we speak right now, even those of us who are supposed to be gainfully employed, well, gainfully in quotes, really, so, gainfully employed, cannot make ends meet most of the times. And I think I saw an old mutual study, I think somewhere close to last year, that suggested that 2/3 of Ghanaians are financially stressed, which means that even when you are, even for those of us, for those people who are supposedly employed, their earnings do not take them throughout they did not see the end of the month with their earnings, really. So it beggars belief, really, to think that close to 2 million people can be living, able-bodied men and women who are supposedly educated, cannot find jobs or would not find good employment. And that's a recipe for disaster. I mean, it's like a ticking time bomb we are sitting. In fact, it's one of the most serious national security issues I suspect we should be dealing with as we speak right now. So those numbers are stuck, and it appears the numbers are increasing, and that even the solutions are not necessarily that coherent right now as we speak from the various political parties. You hear 1 million jobs here and there. You do not see a coherent picture yet. Of course, we'll delve into those matters, but it seems to me that we've created a situation, a country where only certain centers, towns and cities are attracting people, but even then they are not finding meaningful jobs. Which beggars belief, really, if we want to discuss the whole issues about industrialization, and ask ourselves what really were considered in suggesting $1 million per constituency, for instance, or indeed one district, one factory.
Right.
We don't necessarily seem to have taken off effectively.
Thank you for those initial thoughts. And of course, if you're watching, if you're unemployed, we'd like to hear from you. What is your situation? How are you eking out a living? If you've got employment within, let's say, a year's period, what is your situation? Is it something that you've been able to sustain? What is your contribution to this conversation? We'd love to hear from you via the live stream on Facebook, and I'm sure there'll be some time where we can activate the phone lines and hear from you as well. But let me come into the studio now. Solomon Vuduga is member Unemployed Trained Teachers Association. We've heard that teachers are leaving in droves. Last year, about 10,000 out of, is it 16,000 that applied, left the shores of Ghana. It's same for nurses, and I think, was it 2022 or so, the first quarter? About 3,000 were gone. And that trend has continued. We've not spoken about that trend, but it has continued. So from where you sit, what is your reality as a member of this unemployed association?
Thank you very much. I would like to make some correction here. The group I represent is not an association.
Right.
It's just a spontaneous group consisting of individuals that have graduated from the College of Education, specifically the 2022 batch.
Okay.
Who have satisfied all the criteria for employment, but have not been employed.
All right.
And then we have ended our national service since last year, December, and January was our leave month. But as at now, there have not been any information regarding our employment as to whether up to when the portal will be open for our posting. Okay,
so you ended December when?
Yes.
When?
December 21st.
That is last year?
Last year. And January was our leave month.
Okay.
And
as of now, you do not know where you're going to be posted. You have no information about the way forward.
We are in limbo as to when the portal will be open and subsequently our posting. That actually necessitated our presser on the the presser released on the 21st of February this year, February 2024. In fact, our membership is about 10,342.
Is this the membership? You say you are not an association, so how do I refer to you? Just as a group?
Just a group.
A group?
Yes.
All right, spontaneous group. I like the way you characterize it, spontaneous group. So how do you operate? Are you on WhatsApp or something of the sort? Is that where you congregate?
We have a WhatsApp group of which we take collective decision, and yes, that's what we do.
How many are you on that group?
On the page, we even had a full page and created another one. So we are about 500 to say. And that I will check that within some time and let you.
Right. So even on this platform, you're about 500 and counting, but all of you together are about 10,000.
About 10,000.
I see.
About 10,000. That is the respective graduates from the 46 colleges of education across the country.
Right. So tell me, I just want to find out, from where you sit, you are personally affected by unemployment, so to speak, but it is not for a lack of need for healthcare workers, because you go to rural areas, you go to so many parts of the country, and you realize the need is there. We say we are doing Agenda 111. Who are the nurses that will be going to these places? But what is your reality, and how much do you feel is being done about the issue of unemployment now that you've not been posted?
It is very devastating. Honestly, the situation is horrible and terrible. We are drowning in despair, honestly. But before then, I forget one thing. Permit me to give this demanded respect to one of our colleagues who was an active member of this group that we lost 2 days ago.
He passed?
Yes,
is it a he?
Yeah, he.
Passed 2 days ago.
2 days ago, Osman. In fact, with a heavy heart, I would like to say to this comrade, that may the Almighty have mercy on his soul and over his shortcomings, and be the strength of the bereaved. So, Benjamin, it has not been.
May he rest in peace, definitely. But does any of this have anything to do with his demise?
Oh no,
Yeah,
no.
hopefully not.
Some short illness. So actually, not.
Nothing.
Not necessarily this. Yeah. So, in fact.
So briefly on the situation, so we can move the conversation forward. How is this impacting you? Basically, that's what I'm asking.
As an individual, as I'm here, it has been frustrating throughout. You wake up in the morning and you don't have anywhere to go. You sorted for an alternative option to explore, but you are confronted with some kind of challenges, ranging from, as qualified teachers, the only avenue that we can seek an alternative for is the private sector, the private institutions. And then home teaching. But as we sorted for that one, what happens is that these people also want someone that can stay with them for a longer period of time.
Right.
Because each teacher with their philosophy of teaching. So if you cannot stay with us for a very long time, before the children will adapt to your teaching philosophy and start to pick up in the classroom, then you are either leaving them or going somewhere.
Right.
So they are careful about our employment. This is what has led us into this devastating moment finally. So there is no option out there for us. We have many cars that is being distributed, and if you give the benefit of the moment, it will testify from our members, affected members. They will tell you, they will bear testimony to what I'm saying. And even speaking, the first panelist, Franklin Kujo, he said a lot of things. And even in his and I made a deduction, said people who are even employed in this economy,
True.
They are not fine, they are not getting it.
I've seen analyses where they say if you're earning anything less than 10,000 cedis in a month, it will be difficult to break even. So imagine the person who is making 2,000, 3,000, 1,500, 1,800. It means you have to do magic to live.
So the most luxurious food that we depend on now is gari and sugar. Even that empty grade 9, we don't have anything added, no ingredients. That is what you depend on.
You say you are relying on gari soakings for now?
Yes, for now. And sometimes gobe.
Gobe is expensive now?
Yes, it's very, very expensive because of the high demand for it. Because even those are the working class, they also resort to gobe. And even I think there is gobe festival coming off. Gobe festival coming off, led by John Hills, or yes, 3FM.
Right.
3FM, they are making the announcement. So it is very difficult. We depend on our parents. Sometimes you see they have to find for themselves and find for you after making this investment in you.
And I'm sure that must be very frustrating.
Yes.
Having gone through how many years of training?
4 years.
4 years of training.
Yes,
and you still have to depend on your parents.
We are the pioneers.
Oh, I see.
The pioneers of the B.Ed program introduced into the colleges of education in 2018.
All right, so you started in 2019,
Yes,
is it?
2019.
2019 to 2023.
2023. So we completed 2022, and then national service for a year, which was down to 2023.
Right.
And then, so the reason why we are so agitating and felt hurt is that.
So very briefly on that, because I also want to hear from the Unemployed Nurses and Midwives Association.
Yes, we want to affirm that just a minute, checking the trends of recruitment into GES for the last 4 years. All the time, personnel during national service have the portal open for them. They key in their details because it's a process. So even whilst they were doing the service, they had the portal open for them, and they key in their details. So some didn't even finish the service before their posting came.
Okay.
But in our case, this is the situation we find ourselves. And even we still have 3 months arrest.
That have not been paid you?
Yes, that has not been paid us.
As in your stipends for national service?
Yes, national service.
It used to be 500, but it's been increased, right?
It's been increased along the line to 715.
Okay, so the 715, so that's roughly 2,100 plus CDs.
Yes, plus CDs.
About 2,150.
Yes, and I could remember in September when we were preparing for our teacher licensure examination.
Right.
Some people couldn't submit their evaluation form on time, so they have a rest from September. Some few number of people have a rest from
So for some, it's about 4 months, thereabouts. Thank you for those updates. It just tells you about how convoluted this problem is. But let me also bring in Ibrahim Haruna. Since I've spoken to one unemployed group, let me talk to the other one as well. Ibrahim Haruna is National President, Graduate Unemployed Nurses and Midwives Association. The fact that we have so many unemployed groups itself tells you something. But Haruna, good evening. Thank you for joining the conversation.
Good evening, sir. Thank you very much for the opportunity.
Are you suffering as much as Solomon Vuduga and his people here, the unemployed teachers group? They are going through quite a lot. Is the situation same for you? What is the dynamic?
Maybe same or higher than that.
They say they are doing soakings. They are doing soakings, Gary soakings to survive.
Okay. You see, they are getting Gary soakings. But you see, the problem is not only about feeding, but about the state of the mental health of the people. One of my members sent me an audio, and then it was all cries. He said, "Oh, could you imagine, please? Could you imagine my younger brother could call me out and talk to me as if I'm a small child just because I'm unemployed?" And it's not like you don't want the work, you don't want the job. But, you know, if the government sector are not employing us, we resort to the private. And then the private sector, maybe that's their strength, but the kind of conditions you have to go through, it's very bad and eyesore. And so you have to better stay home because someone will see you working, but then at the end of the day, you have nothing to show.
Tell me, how long have you been unemployed? Averagely, I see someone sending me a message here, Ekpe Elinam, who says, "I've been unemployed for 12 years now. It has not been easy for me. Benjamin, I am now driving Okada." That's what he's saying. And that feeds into the problem of underemployment. You're trained in something, you don't get to do what you're trained in, and you end up doing something completely different. But for you, and averagely, how long have you been unemployed? 4 years.
Almost 4 years.
Averagely for the members of your group?
Yes, averagely for almost 4 years. The people I started with, you know, as I speak, we have the 2021 batch, 2022, and then the 2023 who are almost done with their rotation. So most of us, I would say the 2020 batch, That's almost 4 years.
And in terms of the knock-on effect, so over these 4 years, have you had to go the way of underemployment and do other things to eke out a living?
Yes.
What
Some
are
are
some of the
riding
things you've done?
motorbikes to. Some are resorted to Okada.
Okay.
Some have resorted to Okada. A lady just texted me yesterday that her mother says she's tired of her. She's fed up. So when she's going to the market, she sells onions. So when she's going to the market, she will follow her. Then she picks basket for her, and she'll be selling there at Makola.
And this is a trained nurse.
Yeah, a trained nurse. She's a trained midwife.
All right.
Yes, she's a trained midwife.
Hold for me, Haruna. Let me come into the studio. Mr. Kabute, so listening to where we find ourselves, I don't think I need to say anything else. We see where we are. As chairman of the Tema branch, the National Chamber of Commerce and Industry, you also play a crucial role in there, ensuring that there is some sustainability and rolling on some of those with talent into industry. But what is the reality you see from where you sit?
Right. Thank you for the opportunity, and greetings to my chairman who delegated me to be here, National Chairman Dr. Clement Osamwaku, and to the companies that I represent or serve in Tema. The issue is quite dire. We've always heard that the private sector is the engine of growth, and then also the government is supposed to facilitate a working, enabling environment. Right? So if the environment is not that enabling to the private sector, who are set up to make profit, then they will make decisions whether to hire or not. Government has the ability to hire between 5 to 10% of the labor force. So the private sector actually is the sector that takes a chunk of the labor force. So a lot of them willing to work or without work, share of the labor force, right, without job, willing to work or available for, seeking job and are not getting. And there might be a reason why private sector is not able to absorb easily. So I made the point that for the private business person, he exists to make profit.
Right.
Now, if inflation is 23.2, right?
And it's inched up marginally.
So January, I'm talking about January.
Right.
Now, it's 23.2. And then the minimum rate for lending is 32.2, right?
In reality, you're looking at close to 40%.
Exactly. So the private sector is constrained in managing his or her affairs. The quick thing that comes to mind is, if the situation persists, do I downsize? If I don't downsize, then I keep my workforce, but I will not be able to pay them as much as I want to. Right? That should also mean that I cannot take on, because the environment is not that conducive for me to be able to expand or to grow.
Right.
And in some cases, if I have an investment, the decision is, do I put this money into treasury bill than rather to high? COVID actually affected the private sector. DDP also did, cut some investments away. So the private sector is constrained. It's not growing as we want. We always, it's just being sustainable. And when you're in that sustainable mood, you can't add on. That's a reality.
In other words, you're trying to stay afloat. You're barely staying afloat.
Exactly.
Because look, just a few days ago, some books that are needed to do some work from here, we went and got those books, 6 books over 500 CDs. The tax component was about 22% on books. So you're looking at taxes slapped on products. You are looking at, and of course, you're going to bring in raw material and all of that. You're looking at some things like the cost of electricity. You've mentioned the lending rate,
Exactly.
interest rate, exchange rate,
Exactly. So utility
whatever. If
bills,
you're bringing equipment,
taxes is not making us expand. And so you only exist to survive until the conditions become better. Then you have the motive of wanting to expand, and it's based on a lot of options you may want to take. And so the private sector is always looking at how do we expand, how do we grow. But if the factors, and environment is not giving you that comfort, yes, the higher you take the risk, the higher, returns you're expecting, as the finance people will tell you. But if you are risk averse, and of course you need to take all the indicators and realize, no, this is not the time for me to throw good money out. So you just hold on to make sure that I survive the time, and when it's ripe for growth, I put in other investments. So, because you exist to make profit. And so you just can't hide and pay without making any growth or making good profit. That's the reality. That's the reality.
and of course, it means your hands are tied. We can say, the private sector is the engine of growth, but that engine will not run.
Certainly. If some, you would say, dynamics are not working out well.
On a scale of 1 to 10, you are in industry. How well would you say the private sector is running in Ghana? To the extent that it is creating jobs, to the extent that it is really ramping things up. To what extent, on a scale of 1 to 10?
I'll give it between 3 and 4.
3 and 4?
Yes, because the reality is that
30 to 40%?
Yes, I made gradual, visits to members. I give them a call and ask, how did you go last year? What is your projection? And the fact of the matter is, I allowed you to go. And I'll shut down certain operations just to make sure that I control cost. And because of that, I can add on. And I'm even thinking of, shutting down other portfolio as well until things improve. Right. So the private sector is not eager to throw money out there by way of employing.
Of course, you don't throw good money after bad money. And like you said, you are risk averse. You want to maximize benefits.
That's it.
If I may ask, how many people do you employ?
15, but 11 are in-house. Some, if you want to cut down a bit of running costs, some will have to stay home and come at certain times and things like that.
Okay. If the situation were right, if things were going
two
right,
have been shed off.
two already gone.
Exactly.
If the situation were to be better, how many more do you feel you could employ you as a person?
Exactly. So we used to have a post at, so all the regional centers would have had sales and marketing teams being there. Now we have only Accra and Takoradi. Kumasi is down. And so all the other regions we don't have. So you look at what can I do? How do I open a certain market and put a rep there to work where we do? But would have added about not less than 5 more. But we can't.
In other words, if you're telling me that you have about 11 in-house and you could add about 5 more, that's over 50%.
Right.
In other words, you could do over 50% of what you're doing, and you can't because the system is simply not enabling that. Let me quickly bring in, we're going to take a brief break shortly, but let me bring in Kwesi Afriyie, Director of Corporate Affairs at the Youth Employment Agency. Mr. Afriyie, thank you for joining us.
Thank you, too, for having me tonight, my brother. I hope you're doing well.
I'm okay. It's good to have you. When you look at the latest labor statistics, quarter 3, 2023, and it feeds in, it gives us some data from 2022 all the way into 2023, you would see some pluses, but the minuses are legion. There are so many things happening on a regional basis and more. What would you say? Because a lot of even the jobs that are being created, we see are transitory. They hold you briefly, and then you're back to square one. What has the Youth Employment Agency been up to in this regard?
Right. So let me say a big thank you to you, and then good evening to all your viewers tonight. I'll answer your question and then pick a bit on what Mike or Mr. Kabute, my own boss, has been talking about so far. The situation is not exciting at all when you think of unemployment here in the country, and the fact that the most part of it is concerned with the young people. What we, the Youth Employment Agency, are concerned with, the people between the ages of 15 and 35. But I think it's a structural problem which transcends this current government. It's come from a number of governments, and it's an issue that we need to look at, having been with the Youth Employment Agency for some time now. We need to, first of all, be able to concentrate on the agri sector, basically, and then secondly, we need to be able to industrialize as a country. We want to create a lot more jobs. And I think that's where Mr. Kabute's issues come in. Providing, if you want to look at government or situate the problem on government, government's business is to provide a conducive environment for the private sector to thrive. Because we believe that, and we are aware, per all statistics and per all data, it is a private sector that employs, that creates jobs, that industrializes. If you want to get into the sector of agri, begin your farming, begin mechanizing the farm, begin industrializing the farms, cocoa production and everything, and create the value chain of jobs. It is a private sector that will do that. Government's business is only to facilitate. And so when you come to the Youth Employment Agency, where you asked from, my boss, Mr.
But even there, just to chip in briefly, someone told me recently about Malaysians coming into Ghana to purchase cocoa, and we're selling to them raw. Okay, raw. You get about 70%. Why? For what reason would you want to do that when processing it, adding just a little value, can earn you 3, 4, 5 times more what you would get for raw? So sometimes you ask yourself, what is wrong with us?
And that's the exact problem. That what's wrong with us? If you think about bauxite, for example, aluminium production, for example, we have Valco producing just a few percentage or producing, yes, a few percentage of what we actually produce from the raw materials here of bauxite. It's only recently, I think about 2019, that we had the Ghana Integrated Aluminium Development Corporation to foster the efforts of Valco, Ghana Bauxite Company, and make sure that we produce or change the bauxite from its raw state into its final product. I mean, the number of jobs that this is going to create, you sit down and think about it. So how come for over 75 years as a country we've been producing raw bauxite and sending it offshore without anybody thinking that we need to put this to its finished end, let people come in and buy it from us, the kind of a number of jobs that it will produce. So we are the Youth Employment Agency. We have analyzed the problem, we understand the problem, and we know that right from agri, right from industrialization, we can be able to create a lot more jobs. And then the private sector will also be thriving. We expand the economy and we create more jobs. Our mandate, you've been with my chief executive officer, Mr. Kofi Japan, sometimes, and you understand what and how our operations are. Our mandate is to facilitate jobs for the young people of Ghana between the ages of 15 and 35. And that's just what we've been at. We are looking at agri. One of the major areas and sectors also is the informal sector, where we have a lot of artisans. But the problem is that the artisans' jobs are not formalized. So today, as we speak, you have some people who are putting up their buildings. When they get to the POP, when they get to plastering, they will go outside the country, get into Cote d'Ivoire, get into Togo, and bring other people to come and do the plastering because their finishing they think is best. So the artisanal industry needs to be formalized. It needs to be supported from the sector of government. It's not just importers and exporters. So on the broad scale, we have analyzed the problem and we are picking it one by one. When you get into the sector of agri, we have partnered with the Ministry of Food and Agriculture, and we are doing what we call Youth in Commercial Farming, where we are training young people in commercial and mechanized farming. So we are getting the lands for them. We have actually started, we did some a few years back or months back at Wenchi Branham in the Bono region. We are training young people, giving them acres of land supporting them with farmlands and inputs, and then training them on how to get the maximum output out of their farms. And they go on their own and begin to become farmers and also hire laborers.
So that's one aspect. I'll let you come to the artisanal bit shortly. We have to take a break, Mr. Efriye.
Right.
I'll let us do that right after the break. I'll come back to you. We're talking about the unemployment crisis, looking beyond the numbers. This is The Probe. We'll be right back. So the unemployment crisis, how do we go beyond the numbers? How do we address the issues? That's what we're looking at tonight on The Probe. Mr. Efriye, who is with the Youth Employment Agency, was on the floor. You were beginning to talk about artisanal training, and I would also like you to add, because recently you've spoken about 282 people that have been roped in, including those at the toll booths. You have about a minute. Wrap on the two.
The artisanal project that we are partnering with all the associations in the artisanal sector. So we have the garment and textile industry. If you remember, we recently did a partnership program with them. We asked them that we are not jack of all trades. They are master crafts, and they can train people to become fashion designers and tailors and seamstresses, and they were happy to partner with us. And as I speak to you, there are about 2,500 young people who are being trained to become master crafts in tailoring, in fashion design, and to become seamstresses. That's one aspect of the artisanal project. As I speak to you now, we are recruiting and currently training about 20,000 young people to become masters. I was talking to you about the POP and tiling and so on and so forth. So we have 3 areas that we have selected: tiling, plumbing, mason, POP, and a number of them, in especially the real estate industry, to become masters of their own and employ more people. We give them starter packs, and then they are in business. We will also put them on a single platform like the Uber app, where as you are in the studio, if you have a problem with your plumbing works and you live in Awishi where I am, you can just get onto the platform, look for a plumber in the area, and then get him to do your works for you. You pay him, and it is done. So we are expanding the economy, and we are creating more jobs. There are other
but let me ask you an interesting question very quickly. How many of these jobs are sustainable? In other words, you create them and you know that they can be sustained. The people acquire the skills and they can carry them on and fish for themselves.
I'm very happy about the question. And I think that's been the concern of some of our panelists. And I can 100% assure you that the thinking that have gone into it, this is to make sure that these projects are sustainable. So if you train you to become a professional tiler, I think it's a work that sustains you for the rest of your life. You are able to become a master craft and even employ more people. If you train you to become a professional POP designer, a professional plumber, all of these are areas which hitherto were not projects that the agency was concentrating on. But now we are thinking about the sustainability of jobs. Apart from the white-collar jobs, these jobs that we can look at and expand the informal sector, get them also roped in formally, pay more taxes to government, and have their own jobs, have self-sustainability is what we are looking at. So all of these that I have mentioned, if you look at the agri artisans and so on and so forth, they are very, very sustainable. I can see that they are actually permanent jobs. Now, let me touch on. There are other programs.
We don't have that much time. I gave you a minute, so 30 seconds. Wrap on this.
I've seen some people doubting the fact that we've recruited 282 persons with disabilities. So the genesis of this is that we sat down and assessed the needs of employment in the country, and like we're always talking about, that sector is left out. As in persons
what exactly have you recruited them in? What are they going to be doing?
So they are going to stay in our offices across the districts. We have 261 offices across every district in the country, and these people are supposed to be stationed there, take care of the needs of our recruitment needs of persons with disabilities. So we are recruiting people into farming, people to become artisans, people to become tilers. These people are to make sure that persons with disabilities in those districts are recruited and have specific training.
My final bit to you, I just need clarity on this. Oftentimes they will tell you that the jobs you create for them can't even help them make a living. I'm going to ask you this. How much are you going to be paying them?
So they are being put on the same salary scale that I, a staff of the Youth Employment Agency, and other members of or other staff members of the Youth Employment Agency.
Mr. Free, you're not answering my question. You're not answering my question. How much are they going to be paid?
So I am answering your question in that they are not beneficiaries. They are going to be permanent staff of the agency. So it is not about the 500 cedi stipend that we pay beneficiaries. These are, if you are a degree holder, you are put on the level of a degree holder. If you are an HND holder, I think it's about level 7 or so. You are put on that level 7. You are paid your salary, you are paid your SNET allowances, you are paid if there is transportation allowances for you.
Mr. Free, I'm going to do this one last time. If you can give me the information, fine. If not, I'll move on. How much will they be paid? Yes, national security and all of that. How much will they be paid? If
so
you
I'm
know it,
saying that
fine.
I will not be able to give you a specific amount because if you're on level 8, if we recruit you and your grade is level 8, based on your certificate, as a permanent staff, we are paying you between 3,000 and 4,000. That is how much you're going to take. So it varies. Depending on their certificates.
All right, hold for me.
The regular community police and the other ones that you see around.
Right, hold for me. Let me bring in Mr. Kujo, and right after I bring in Mr. Kujo, I'll take some messages, and then we'll look at what then can be done for the rest of the show. What can be done to resolve this menace? But interestingly, Mr. Kujo, you look at the trend. Unemployment rates in Ghana. 2010, we were at 5.3%. It shot up in 2015 to 11.9%. Then in 2021, it had hit 13.4%. It ended up a bit higher in 2022, 13.63%. Now, from 5.3% in 2010, in 14 years, it has hit 14.73%. At the same time, this administration says it has created, between 2017 and 2022, 2.1 million jobs. The latest reports show us that there's a deficit of about 1.85 million Ghanaians remaining unemployed. Do they add up?
Well, I mean, politicians like to politicize numbers when it comes to employment and just about everything, really. I think when the vice president suggested, I think this was somewhere April last year, I think, when they suggested that they created 2.1 million jobs in total, I think 975,000 in the private sector, 1.2 million in the public sector. The assumption that it was that, I mean, he had the numbers. Well, the question is then why are we where we are today? Maybe he was not thinking about the numbers that we are dealing with right now. In natural fact, as you suggested, the numbers have been growing. And I think when politicians try to politicize issues like employment or unemployment, that's what you normally get. I think Mr. Caesar, right?
Yes.
The likes of Mr. Caesar and even to some extent, Mr. Free's work must be supported. And the reason why I say this is is simply because these entities essentially are the ones that actually deal with real people, real livelihoods, right? And to think that you're operating an economy where the burden on the average entrepreneur is actually much higher than what the politician would typically do. It's quite worrying. You know, if you have a multiplicity of taxes, and some of the taxes are not even determinate, you don't even know them. They spring up every now and then, and as we speak, maybe a few more will be on their way. It makes it difficult to estimate whatever value you even want to add to the economy. You see, Mr. Caesar kept telling you that he's not even sure about the numbers that he's likely to employ because the policy directives from the states or from the government it's not signaling properly. So while we indulge in these 1 million jobs festival, what I call it the festival of phony promises, where politicians
the festival of what?
Phony promises.
Phony promises, right?
Yeah, I mean, it moved from high octane spin to phony promises, and I think these promises are not grounded. The only reason why the likes of Mr. Caesar and to some extent Mr. Free suggest should be considered in whatever decision we make as a country when dealing with employment or unemployment is that these are the people who actually deal with the real livelihoods. They deal with basically they understand what it is to be hungry and they understand what it is to make people earn a living, right? So I come back to the last statistic I mentioned when we started this conversation. the what was it again? The company called the Old Mutual, right? Just suggested somewhere to 2023. I think they published a customer survey
Indeed.
banking report that suggested that over 80% of Ghanaians actually earn less than 3,000 Ghana cedis, with over 5% earning little above $500. Tells you exactly the economic atrophy we currently find ourselves. So it's important that in going forward, when we want to deal with employment, we should be considering the private sector that creates the real jobs and not the politicians who typically would create what I call transient jobs. I don't think those things work.
Right. Before we get to those solutions, I did promise I would look at some messages. Bernard Akoto says, those who are trained on the new curriculum are unemployed, Ghana. And Michael says, unemployed trained teachers from colleges of education were trained in line with the new curriculum and must be employed immediately. Unfortunately, the authorities may not be thinking exactly as you are. Osei Foster says, this unemployment problem is now becoming unbecoming, not only for the nurses or teachers, but the graduates of unemployed environmental health officers and assistants have been home for almost 4 years now. It appears the unemployed groupings are growing. This one from Abubakar Awufo says, the artisanal industry is collapsing because of dishonesty on the part of some of them. Give them the work, either they overcharge you or they do shoddy work for you. So I guess that goes to Mr. Efriye as well. This one says, no grief for any politician to deceive you in the name of job creation. Well, Abu Salifu, please, we are tired of these stories. What is government doing about the taxes on private entities? Let me take a few more messages. Kweku says, when I was in school back in the university, I didn't understand the importance or the need for the government to take heed to the unemployment situation. But after staying in the house for a year and a half with some unpleasant comments from my family members, now I understand. And that can be one of the worst, when your own family members are hounding you out because you have no job. Emmanuel Mensah says the NTC made it clear to the general public that something should be done so that teachers will not travel. The teachers we need for the education we want, the global imperative to reverse teacher shortages. I think I'll speak to Mr. Vuduga about that. There are many more, but Seydou Suleiman, I'll end there. You say the classrooms are empty. Post the newly trained teachers now. Post them there. So let's look at the solutions, the way forward. I'll start with you, Mr. Vuduga. And let me just inform you, gentlemen, for the sake of time, you have 1 minute. Make the most of it. What is the way forward? Solomon.
Some 2%.
It's within your 1 minute. So as you, whichever way you want to spend it.
Mutala Mohammed, Mr. Sumaila, and then Mumuni Ishmael. These are the individuals that lead the motion of this struggle up to here. So I think I have to give them the honor. All right, moving to the solution. I will take it from this perspective that it is crucial for the government to employ we as the first batch of the BA program he introduced under his leadership, in the sense that implementation of this policy also comes at a cost. And to get that back into the economy, we have to render that service or give back to society with the competence. Someone talked about we being trained along the new curriculum. First, it was objective-based curriculum.
Right.
But actually, the system they brought, and then per the training, the structure is in place. It actually places premium on the practicality of the teaching. So that is the standard-based curriculum, which is so much concerned about what you should know and be able to do, and know the way to do it after the study.
So all of these things are done, and yet, because I think this message sums it, the stress of acquiring a degree in education, acquiring an NTC license, and completing a 1-year mandatory NSS, and your allowances are not even paid regularly. Yes. It goes on and on. Yes. So that's the situation.
That is the situation.
So government must do what must be done.
To act as a matter of agency to induce all the bodies that are responsible to sanction all the processes, fast-track things for us to be employed.
Mr. Vuduga, thank you. Mr. Kabute Caesar.
Right. So
what is the way forward?
The private sector is ready to partner government to create employment. But certain things ought to be gotten right.
Right.
So when when government was shut from going to international market to borrow, private sector and now have to compete with government, to borrow from the local market.
Indeed.
So what happens? Our hands
They're
are
being
tied.
crowded out.
Exactly. So in that effect, some fiscal and monetary policies have to be taken too. I don't know how it's going to be done, but that's their job, actually, to ensure that at least the rates come down fairly. And we always have appetite to want to grow business.
How about taxes?
Yeah, it includes that. Taxes in terms of from utilities to those other import, excise taxes and all that. They affect the productive sector.
Right.
And so there need to be, or we have been having conversation with government, but it has been slow in getting some of these policies.
And it's impacting you. So you need that to be done as soon as possible.
As soon as possible.
All right. Thank you very much, sir. Let me go to Haruna now. For you, unemployed nurses and midwives, what would you like to see? Hello, Ibrahim.
Thank
Haruna.
you very much.
Right.
Hello. Thank you very much. I want to say that I want the government to post us now. Because let me take it from two angles. The first one is the implications on the nation for not employing us. It's very devastating. So let's say I have been trained for 3 years, BNS, and I'll have to be unemployed and stay home without practicing for 4 years to go back to practice again.
Right.
That's very dangerous. Because let's say someone who mends shoes will have to be practicing every day and continues to be perfect. How more we nurses who are going to working on humans?
Right.
I will be injecting someone. I will be cutting. That's the side for the citizens. When I'm going to work on a human being, I have to be considered.
So I get the thrust of your argument is a lot of you are going rusty and you want government to employ you now so that you can actually bring to bear what you've learned.
Exactly. For instance, someone who...
Mr. Haruna, thank you very much for that submission. Let me go on to Mr. Friye. I'll wrap with Franklin Kujo. Mr. Friye, so what for you is the way forward? What more can be done to absorb the numbers? Hello, Kwesi Friye, you'd have to unmute. We have very little time, so please, you can do 40 seconds.
Can you hear me now?
I can hear you. Let's go.
Right, thank you very much. So I on that note, would say a very big thank you to Franklin Kujo, my senior. I think the call he makes is a very important call, that the entire people of the country should support institutions like the Youth Employment Agency and the government in general to support the private sector to thrive, because we all know that to expand the economy, to create jobs, you need the private sector. That's why there is a lot more public-private partnerships recently that you see. We also need to support the agenda to expand agric in the country and then move into industrialization. And then one major concern, having been in the employment sector for quite some time now, is the attitude of we, the job seekers, and the people that are coming out of the universities and the institutions. I'm sure that would be a discussion for another day. But we need to reorient young people that are coming up. The expectations.
Right. Unfortunately, Mr. Friye, I have to pause you here. Franklin Kujo, you have some 30 seconds. Final words. I'm sorry I have to squeeze you like this. Franklin.
That's fine. Interesting conversation. I'll say that, look, I'll support Keynesian theory for this moment. I'm not a fan of Keynes, by the way. To say that to absorb all those numbers right now, we need to inject a lot of money into the system, and it must be done very prudently with the private sector, so that the private sector and the government can easily absorb these numbers for now. But going forward, we should look to our education system. I don't think people should come out of education looking for jobs all the time. So we should start thinking about how the education system respond to the jobs market. And it has to be dynamic, really.
Thank you so much, Mr. Kujo. Those who joined us, Franklin Kujo, founding president and CEO, Imani Africa. Michael Kabute Caesar in the studio, chairman, Tema Branch of the Ghana National Chamber of Commerce and Industry. Kwesi Efriye, he speaks for the Youth Employment Agency. He is Director of Corporate Affairs. Solomon Vuduga, member, Unemployed Trained Teachers Association. Ibrahim Haruna, National President, Graduate Unemployed Nurses and Midwives Association. And so Mr. Vuduga is confirming for me that their number on WhatsApp alone is 1,600. So the verdict is out there, the unemployment situation. Thank you for watching The Probe tonight. My name is Benjamin Akam.